I am here because it is Thursday. And when it's Thursday, we try to celebrate the good news. And Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire comes and helps me out. And that you have to go to rebellionaire.com to find that, because that's what it's. Anyway, Bradford comes on Thursday to help me celebrate the good news. Bradford, we almost had good news. I mean, we were so close to being in the green.
Ooh, yeah. Practically an unched kind of day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
something.
didn't finish unched, but compared to how it swings, it felt unchanged.
Really, it was unch. I never heard unch before. That's a new one for me. Well, you know what? On the one of the major subjects on my mind recently, of course, as you know, is robots. And in just the last 24 hours, the world has been rapidly changing in the robot space. Let's start with the first one. Brett Adcock at Figure AI confirmed completion of their financing round. We'd heard about it last week with multiple top players, including Microsoft, Jeff Bezos, OpenAI, NVIDIA, and on and on and on. Your thoughts about their stepping into the getting this major backing and the splash that that's making?
Yeah, I say good luck to them. Yeah, I'm a little unsure about the person at the top. That they've left several companies, but like it doesn't get any bigger than humanoid robots. I'm guessing this is going to be Brett's baby to stay. Um, they seem to have a good approach. We'll see if they have the talent and the wherewithal to do it. I would put my chips more on, someone who's established that they're a hardcore manufacturer, making things that go into space and are deemed safe on our roads.
Yeah, well, there's no question. I don't think I'm glad to hear that you would agree that Optimus is in the lead. We'll probably stay in the lead, but there's going to be plenty of space for a bunch of players.
Mm,
And also, I think that they'll feed off of each other.
yeah.
I have found in my career in product sales, service sales, there's nothing like competition. I mean, you'd be going along and doing okay in an environment where you are all by yourself, and all of a sudden you got a competitor knocking at your door, and man, your inclination to find new ways to do things and change your packaging and whatever else really steps up. So I think it's all good to have a bunch of competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think we're already seeing an Optimus that's walking faster now. Tesla just released a video over the past week of it going nearly 2.5 miles an hour, which is a big improvement from, how quick they were. Yeah, so it's definitely the competition definitely seems to be doing its trick as far as getting getting all parties to push a little faster and show what they got. Um, there's another AI company. Um, do you remember the name? The sorting video that we saw today from the another AI company. It
Well,
it
there was Toyota came out today. It wasn't sorting. Toyota came out with one today where it's kind of a big cuddly guy. It's got all kinds of clothes on it, and it's picking up
oh
all
yeah.
foam objects and whatnot. So that was another entry today into the space, which we didn't know about until today, that Toyota was even a player.
So I'll find the one that Scott talked about, and I think Herbert interviewed the CEO. I'll find that they had a
Okay.
video today. Yeah, that's from it's a robot called Phoenix
Oh, Phoenix. Okay.
that did a sorting operation at human equivalent speed, so it's pretty quick. It did put one of the objects on its side, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
still like a lot quicker than what we've seen from Optimus um, or from Figure.
Well, I must have missed that one. I have
Yeah.
been, in fact, I had a program on with Scott 2 days ago and with John today, and one of the things we were talking about was speed, because getting them up to human speed would be kind of the next thing, as
Yep.
well as, of course, adding more and more jobs or things that they can do. But the other thing I've wanted them to do, because, I mean, that's the way it was in the movies, is um, uh, Brett Adcock today also claimed that Figure is able to speak.
Well, let's see it.
And so
I'm
I
guessing
thought,
they're working on that shortly. We'll see another video soon.
yeah, so that was another breakthrough. I mean, a breakthrough that we all expect. And Elon has said that Optimus will be Grok, supplied with the AI from Grok. And so ultimately, we'll be having conversations with these bots like we are right now with you and I suppose. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
So
and even Grok is going to get better. I feel like we saw like a version 0.5. There was this hilarious Grok roast recently where people asked Grok to roast Apple and Dyson. So it roasts them both on like trying to get into EVs. And it was just hilarious the way it wrote it.
I see. That's very cool. So we also had Elon speaking today at the Bosch event. And
Hmm.
he said the car has to be fully intelligent. And as a subset, for example, it has to learn how to read everything, how to assess intention among drivers and pedestrians. That's always been my big question. One,
Hmm.
one of my two or three big questions. So you end up creating sort of an artificial general intelligence to solve this. So somebody posted today, they didn't think, and Elon agreed, that we will see another February 29th before we will see general artificial intelligence solved.
Wow. Is that 4 years or 5 years?
4 years from today, yeah.
Okay.
So that would be pretty amazing if we see AGI that soon. There have been a lot of people predicting 2029
Hmm.
as the time, and that would be 2028. So that would mean we'd have to speed it up, I guess.
Yeah, I think current AI, it's predicting things. It does need to know a lot of associations, but it doesn't know those associations the same way we do.
Right.
I think it's a really big deal that we're now feeding video to AI, and the AI is predicting the next frame or sequence of frames, and it's predicting the next pixel in that frame. Um, but like with video, it's not sitting there rendering the video in a graphics engine that obeys the laws of physics. So it's just like using the videos it's been trained on to predict that next frame and that next pixel. So it's not like drawing a whole scene and casting rays and tracing those rays, seeing how all the light interacts and the physics. Um, it's not doing that yet. But maybe there's going to be a method or breakthrough that causes it to gain that understanding. Or um, I think like in a way, we use words to communicate and they're very low bandwidth. So I think it's very exciting. We're training AIs on video, and as we give um, AI more input, more senses like touch on the Optimus,
Yes.
then I'll take the leap with Elon. It'll be seeing and sensing the world kind of like we do. Um, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it's possible now.
Well, on a separate subject, which is right up your bailiwick, Sawyer Merritt was giving us a report today from the analysts at RBC Capital. They believe that Tesla's megapack battery storage business could be worth substantially more not just more, but substantially more than the standalone car business. Elon has said it will be worth more. My figures that I've done out to 2030 all predict that it will be more. They said that they are looking at potentially a 600 billion annual industry revenues. And they suggest, well, Tesla could maybe have a 15% market share, which would mean at least 90 billion in Tesla specific battery storage revenue. Now you apply a 15 times cap good EBITDA multiple, that results in 345 billion EV for Tesla's megapack business, and discounting this back to 2024 from 2040, which is when they're projecting this will happen, results in a current $120 billion valuation for the energy storage business. They said they've also had some analysis of BYD. I'm sorry, that's a different story. I was going on to something else. So what do you think? You've been studying this area for a long while. Of course, my numbers have been higher. I've been thinking in terms of 400 billion by 2030 in revenues with, or 300 billion rather, with about
For Tesla alone or for the
Tesla
whole?
alone, 300
Okay.
billion in 2030. Yeah. A terawatt at 15, at whatever that is, at 15 dollars per kilowatt hour.
Those are some big numbers, and prices of these gigantic batteries is going to come down over time. If pricing stayed the same as today, it sounds like they're talking about 1.6 terawatt hours. But I'm guessing pricing would drop, so that would mean more than that. Yeah, I'm curious. So it sounds like the analyst went to Megapack Lathrop, checking out the megapacks, and looked at how much they're selling them for. Tried to figure out what the costs were, and then discovered, oh, there's a lot of money in this. Yeah, Wall Street can be 6 months to a year late on some things. What's a little nutty about this is analysts got a tour, I don't know, 16 months ago at Lathrop. So maybe they are finally seeing the production that to give them that confidence, and maybe when they saw it before, it was kind of a mess. So maybe at that time, they didn't see what they needed to see to have the confidence to put the ink on the paper.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, we think energy is going to be a big deal for Tesla. Anxious to see when Lathrop finally does ramp some more. So I'm curious to see that, and wonder if they saw a pickup in production or got some kind of confidence from Tesla that production will pick up at a certain date. So I might have to be pulling our Lathrop data more often now.
All right. So at the same time, the other thing that this suggests is that they only think that Tesla will be doing $90 billion in revenue in 2040 in cars. That makes no sense at all. So I'm not sure how they got to the number, because Tesla's doing 90 billion in car revenues now. So it seems like this would be much too low of a number for 2040. I would be predicting that their overall car business by 2030 is going to be at least 200, 300 billion.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they think there's going to be all this competition in EVs, and that Tesla's share of the EV market's going to erode. Yeah, perhaps. Yes, prices will need to come down in the future, but let's say Tesla halves their prices from now, they would more than double their production.
Yeah.
So and that would be having the same revenue. So, that number doesn't make a lot of sense to me with the context that you've given.
I know, it's just, it just made no sense to me. So,
That's a good find.
so, so speaking of cars going down in price, I just saw this analysis on Autoline. Isn't that, it was Autoline, that YouTube channel.
Mhm.
He did an analysis of, and got a drive in the BYD's new Seagull, and he was pretty impressed that it was not a horrible car, which sells for $11,500 in China. Now, if you add the necessary safety items for the US, make it in Mexico, that's still probably going to be 15K in the United States after that process. Now, I think that would be a winning price, a $15,000 electric car in the United States that isn't bad, according to that report. But that still might actually fit within what BYD said the other day, that they're only crossing paths with Tesla about 15% of the time, between the different countries they're in, between the different models that they make, the different price points. They're really only competing at about 15%. This would be $10,000 less than the $25,000 compact. And even as kind of okay as that car was, I'm guessing this $15,000 compact is going to be a lot nicer in terms of its overall appearance, interior, in terms of the capabilities it'll have, or maybe not. I don't know.
Nicer than what?
Nicer than the Penguin.
Oh, okay.
Seagull. I keep forgetting the different net seals and all kinds of things.
The Seagull's going to be nicer than what?
No, that the Tesla $25,000 compact will be nicer than the Seagull.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Uh, so China does have to pay like a 27.5% tariff on cars imported into the US. So that might raise it closer to 20,000. Yeah, I think there'll be a substantial difference. And I'm wondering, I might have to watch the video now on Autoline. I'm wondering what the trade-offs were. Like when you hit the accelerator, does it go? Is there a lag like there are with?
It's slow. It's slow.
Okay.
No doubt about it. Yeah. And it doesn't go very far.
Yeah, so it's got a lower powered engine motor. Um, yeah, I think this is interesting, and as you say, competition's a good thing. It will get Tesla moving on their compact hatchback.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gary Black says Tesla needs to get back to the preferred psychological position where potential customers believe Tesla vehicle prices are going higher, not lower. Currently, all models in the sexy line show March delivery. Perhaps tomorrow, Tesla will change the consumer narrative. Take the price of the Model Y up the $1,000 as planned. Take Model 3 long range up another 1,000, and then take prices up another 1,000 next week to change the consumer psychology. Potential buyers still think they can get a lower price by waiting. Consumers need to believe Tesla's price will be going higher, and that if they wait, they'll be in trouble. Absent the 2024 volume guidance, there's no pressure for Tesla to hit some artificial volume target. What do you think about that psychology?
I agree as far as the stock and how investors would feel about Tesla. That would definitely help. I will say for quarter one, production of the Model 3 in Fremont is not good. It's going to be a drop from the previous quarter. I still think they're below 40% of what they were in the previous quarter in Fremont. So I don't know what the delay is. Maybe it's a ramp with the suppliers. I think if we do have a lackluster first quarter, if the increases in Model Y at Berlin and Austin don't offset the decrease in Model 3 at Fremont, that could weigh on the stock over the shorter term over the next few months, and maybe then like way into the summer.
So what about the consumer psychology, though?
Yeah, I agree with the consumer psychology for sure.
Okay. My kind of where I'm kind of sitting right now is that Tesla has gotten the price down to something close to parity. It's within a couple of $1,000s of parity. It might be equal into similar cars. It might be $1,500 more according to some third-party sources, but that it's pretty close to parity. And that maybe it would be good to have it kind of sit there for a while. Let the consumer catch up with the idea that I can get this for the same price as I can get a nice car. No, it's not even a contest. Now, I'm not arguing with Gary in terms of raising the prices if the market is in other words, if we can raise them and still get the volume out the door, because you don't want to slow down those factories. You're going to lose your margin. You're going to lose your cost of goods advantage if you slow down the factories.
Yeah, that's a negative. It also isn't good for the mission. I expect over time Tesla to lower their prices as they continue to gain scale and all that. Eventually, we could see some kind of increase as people just kind of realize how good a vehicle a Tesla is and how great a value they are. But that's going to take some time.
All right. So the market took the hot PCE numbers today. They were actually on exactly, precisely as expected. Trueflation says that the only numbers that are headed up, however, other than single family residential homes, we know those are up like 6%, 5% nationwide year over year. But they don't even, the CPI and the PCE don't even look at what the price of residential homes are or what the monthly mortgage payments are for people that are getting new homes, which is crazy, but that's not how they value them. So other than that, these things were up according to Trueflation. Food and non-alcoholic beverages have ticked up again after going down a lot. Gasoline, motor oil, and other fuels were up from a -9% to only -2.5%, but that is still up. Health is up from a -2% to a +1%, and personal care up from 4.9 to 5.2. Now, the interesting thing is all of the things that were up are up from negatives, are up just in general, are all the things that the consumer is most focused on. Gasoline, foodstuffs, personal care items, alcohol, all of those things are the things that people are like, oh, 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 oh. So that's not very good for the current administration to have consumers going in February of an election year and still seeing sticker shock all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that, but I think there's a lot more going on with the elections. I don't want to weigh in on how, yeah, I'm not sure I know like how much inflation weighs in on people's decisions at the polls.
Yeah, they're talking about it in terms of confidence. They're saying that the two things that are weighing on confidence is that the job market is getting tighter. And the other thing that's weighing on confidence is that people are still experiencing sticker shock. So if people's
Mm-hmm.
confidence is not as good, that would be a possible element of how they're making a decision going. I mean, who was it? There was some guy, Clinton or something, that said it's the economy, stupid. so
Mm-hmm.
so there is that potential area there. I said this morning in my after the Bell conversation that if they're gonna, you could have a conspiracy attitude and think that the folks that are doing this, which are government employees, would be trying to make the inflation numbers better so that the Fed would lower rates so the economy would get hotter. But in fact, the opposite happened in the February report. So then I really got conspiratorial. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, what if they're jacking them up a little bit now? So about April, they can really slash them and get things going in the second half of the year. Am I crazy? Is that too crazy? Am I too conspiratorial?
I'd say so.
Oh, okay. You,
I do think there are pressures that happen. I do, believe there is corruption. That's certainly possible. But I view that as very unlikely.
okay, all right. So overall, though, after you've seen these reports, are you looking at in your way of analyzing the rest of this year, are you looking at these reports as one-offs, or do you think there is a possible trend towards a slightly higher tick on inflation, which would maybe mean no Fed cuts at all this year?
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it all settles out. Yeah, I'm wondering if we have a recession or not. Um, we're kind of near that spot where it could happen. Um, and then we wouldn't be worrying about how high inflation is anymore.
Except we get to dust off that old word stagflation again, right?
Hopefully yeah, that would be bad if that happened.
Well, going into the next couple of weeks, we have a breather. No CPIs, no PCEs, no other really major reports coming out in the next couple of weeks until the Fed meets.
Hey, I got one for you, Randy.
Yeah,
You mentioned talking a little bit about AI alignment.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about that before we wrap it
Go
up with the
ahead.
numbers?
Go ahead. Sure.
Okay. So I think the topic you were bringing up is the whole controversy with Google's Gemini and what it revealed about Google um, and the controversy was if you Googled a historical figure, basically it would map over their face like a different race for that historical figure, even for Elon Musk,
Yes,
allegedly.
allegedly.
And then people looked at Google search as kind of post-mortem of like how did Google get into this situation. And when you do Google search and you're looking for things, it's a similar effect where I think Stephen Mark Ryan, he searched for great physicists, and Feynman was on the page, but he's on like the bottom left. He's the person about first principles and was a great physics professor for a long time. But it seems like those search results go out of their way to just like make everything equal.
Yeah.
And I'd say where people have concern is that AI can be used to manipulate thought. Um, we're going to be relying on our intelligence amplification. So, switching the I and the A. I'm not sure who
Yes.
made that up online, but we're going to be relying on that greater and greater as time goes on. And things are going to get slipped in on us, and we'll start believing them, that kind of thing. Um, so people have some genuine concerns around the ability to use AI to control people. And like our social media, AI is used to keep us in our feed and keep us interested. So it does like rely on our dopamine to like, or whatever it is, to like keep us going to that next post. Um, so I'm curious, Randy, your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this was a tip of the iceberg, and it was kind of interesting that it was so blatant. I don't think they knew. Somebody must not have really realized it was going to be this blatant, or they should be fired, or they should all be fired anyway. Um, but I did watch a All In broadcast. I don't know if you saw that one, the most recent one was about yesterday or no, about 3 or 4 days ago.
Hmm.
And I had a conversation earlier today with John. I mean, I published a conversation with John Gibs earlier today where we're discussing this. And it turns out that after we did that conversation, I watched that all in broadcast. Chamath and some of the other ones were very, very, very concerned about this,
Hmm.
because if you get a little more subtle, then you can get this thing done. If this is what you really want done, you
Hmm.
get it done. And so their concern was, and my concern is, these companies are all monopolies. You don't have to,
Yeah.
I don't care how you define it. YouTube is a monopoly. Google search is a monopoly. Microsoft Windows is a monopoly. I mean, these are monopolies.
Hmm.
And as these companies are more actively able to suck us into, as you're talking, as you just mentioned, the idea of expanding our intellect,
Hmm.
uh, to the point where I've done it. I've gone on there and said, hey, I've got this social interaction problem. I've got an issue with my child or whatever. You know,
Hmm.
what should I do?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the best way to handle this?
What's the best way to handle? And I listen to this thing, giving
Mhm.
me advice. I mean, it's potentially crazy.
Did it work, Randy?
Actually, I got great answers, and they've done a bunch of testing on the psychology and on the doctor
Uh,
side of it, and say that people like the information they're getting better, and that the doctors and the psychologists that are just the AI have better bedside manner.
mhm.
So so yes, it seems like good advice, but what if part of the advice is being swayed, being gently trying to move people towards a world that the folks in charge want us to go towards, want to
Yeah.
move us into a place where they have even more control, or where they are kind of getting their political or sociological wish list completed.
It's a definite risk. And one thing I like about GPT-4, and I think Bard might be better now, I'm not sure, but um, I liked it for fiction writing.
Oh,
And I asked it to let's write a novel, the greatest story ever told. I spent a day and a half like writing a super detailed outline of this sci-fi realism novel, and I couldn't have written an outline like that in a month. So it took me like a day and a half. This is when I was watching Lathrop for the first time. I was kind of bored.
okay, there you go. Yeah.
And I was just amazed by how much I could do. But when it came to the actual writing, it wanted to write the end of the scene of each scene, like, and then they all understood how each person had a role to play and
Oh,
respected each other's differences and
oh,
all joined hands and sang. It didn't quite go that way.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
And I had to like really work on it and kind of like force it to add more conflict to scenes, to
Yeah.
have scenes that don't have to have a positive ending, to not summarize at the end of its answers, which you don't read you typically don't read a chapter of a fiction book and get a summary at the end.
Right, right, right,
Or
right.
get this summary at the end of every scene, um, where it tells you what's going to happen next. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, 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 right. That's not helpful.
so yeah, I think a lot of this AI alignment is embedded, where people are kind of, forcing their values down, and it's like so embedded that even when I'm asking it to write a fun like sci-fi realism. Yes, it should use themes of today and all that, but um I want it to be a dramatic thing. And yeah, so I do think there are some reasons for concern, and I'm hopeful that we'll all have options of where we can turn for our AIs.
It might be the very thing. I've brought this up a couple of times already on my show. And I'd really like to hear, of course, in the comments below, this might be the thing that might energize some people to break these companies up. Because if you've got one,
Yeah.
if you only have one company out there doing it, then it makes it kind of hard, to have a choice of where you can go and get what you're searching for answered reliably. And okay, so maybe one of them has conservative values and another one has conservative Christian values and another one has liberal progressive values. And you have all these different possibilities. Maybe you can go to the one that tweaks things in the direction that you'd prefer to have it. But maybe, as somebody said maybe it was I think it was on that same All In broadcast, they were saying maybe the best thing would be if it was trying to get to the facts, the truth.
Yeah.
That might be get to accuracy. That was the word they used, accuracy. That would be good.
But how do you define it? Whose accuracy are we talking about?
All right, I got one more subject for you. Unless you got some more stuff, I wanted to talk about Elon this morning. Also, and after the bell, I brought this up, and I'm curious to get some feedback live. I said, "Hey, Elon seems enthusiastic. He seems excited. He seems like he's bringing things forward and turning things out. Where last year it was all, oh, let's hold it back. Let's hold back a year and hold back 6 months. And now it's like, okay, let's get it out there." I'm wondering if you have the same feeling, if you feel like it's a turn of his attitude right now, and is that a good thing? I think, of course, it's an amazing and good thing. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think Tesla's feeling good about scaling the Model Y, getting that going and starting to expand it in Texas and in Austin. I mean in Berlin. So yeah, they're working on the Cybertruck. The production's still low. I know people are getting excited about deliveries and seeing more in the parking lot, but it's still pretty low. So for Tesla to begin to focus on some other things like building the semi factory at Giga Nevada has started, and to be thinking about an event around Roadster where they're more serious about it. Yeah, I would say that's pretty positive, but it could be a sign that we're in the middle of a bit of a pause for Tesla too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my read on it.
Okay.
But I'm glad that like Elon's pumped about the Roadster and it sounds pretty crazy.
All right. Was there anything else out there you saw today? I think I went through all my list here. We could check out where things are now. Are you ready to take a look at the market?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. We've got Tesla in the aftermarket down $1.22. So not bad. I'm okay with it being down $1.22. That's kind of, as you pointed out, I have this new thing now, the unch. I'm going to use
Unched.
that. Am I allowed to use that? Do I need permission? You need to send me a letter.
You say practically unched. I
Practice.
think there was a day though it finished unchanged.
Okay. All right.
And that I don't know if that was 2020 or when that was, but that was pretty crazy.
All right. Let's see. We have got, if we look at the bonds, of course, which are my next thing, this is really funny. Talk about unchanged. Oh, there we go. It's all right. So we've got the 10-year basically unch down 1/10 down. Oh no, that is a full basis point. I misread it. So down 1 basis point. We've got it's all mixed up. There's no directionality here at all. I'm going to say that the bonds are all over the place after being today doing fairly well. In other words, people were buying bonds, rates were coming down during the day, but right now, kind of all mixed up and no real directionality. I think that's probably one of the things I was mentioning earlier. I'm hard pressed to see where bonds are going to be inclined to go in either direction for a while because we have nothing coming up in the next 10 days to really move them. That's my thinking.
Okay.
All right, oil. Oops, I just hit the wrong thing. We have got the oil is doing what it's been doing. It's sitting there right under 80. It's at 78 and 36 cents, up 10 cents in the pre-market. It was pretty much, again, really been hanging in there in a really tiny little range here right now. Natural gas down 75.75%, sitting at 184, which is actually kind of a nice bump from where it tanked a couple of like last week. So it's kind of recovered a little bit from that, but it's still way down from where it was 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Thoughts on the oil patch, the energy patch?
Not really, no.
Okay, all right. We got the dollar dipping a little bit today, not really any action. Gold, same thing, unchanged. But then we have where all the action is. Maybe this is where all the money is too. I'm not sure. Crypto, all over the place, even when Coinbase isn't failing. Um, Sitting at 61.6 right now. It was at 64. Had a big drop off earlier today for absolutely no apparent reason. Has recovered part of that, but is still sitting, as I say, sitting at 61.6. Any important things to say about crypto? Bitcoin, rather.
Yeah, I had a couple tweets on it, but I'm I'm forgetting where it was. I think one of them was that the Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi said that on the title it says a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That was the title of his Bitcoin white paper. But Bitcoin bulls will say it was never meant to be used and spent as currency.
Really?
So it's supposed to be digital gold where we're not transacting it. But Satoshi says it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Um, I think it's interesting that like the Bitcoin bulls, they don't use it for transactions.
Just as
Um,
okay.
so I guess like, what's the point if it's never used for transactions? Maybe you can hit us up in the comments below.
Yeah, because as I said, I don't really know anything about it at all, but I can remember so many articles that I did read 3, 4, 5 years ago about, okay, there's too much friction. We need to find a way to be able to transact with less friction so that it makes more sense. You got to pay so much money in order to get in and out of it, get it into dollars or get it to
Mhm.
be used to buy something. So somebody thought it was supposed to be a way to transact. I don't
Mhm.
know if the founders or the bulls thought that, but it certainly was part of the conversation. I can say that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And then let's look at the equities. What are the equities looking at right now before we, whoops. Yeah, if I can find them, where did they go? All right, here we go. So we got all three basically unch. All right. But it's really true. The Dow is down 21, S&P down 3, and the NASDAQ down 11. So those are all in the range of 0.05%. So that's pretty close to basically unch.
Mhm.
I'm going to just love using that from now on. Every time I say it, I'm going to think of you. So I think markets are going to be a little bit flat for a bit. A little exhaustion, maybe. A
Mhm.
little. We're sitting here all-time high for the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is 60% up from its low 14 months ago.
Mm.
It's a big run.
Yep.
You got the S&P at all-time highs. You got the Dow. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there's going to need to be a little bit of a exhaustion pause, which might mean a little down, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think we hit exhaustion. So people talk about capitulation when a stock goes down. You can have it capitulation where volume is heavy on like when it hits the low.
Yeah,
Um, I think you can have capitulation on the upside where people get the FOMO and they're like, I gotta buy it. And
yeah,
I think we saw a bit of capitulation on Nvidia where we had this ridiculous countdown timer to their earnings,
right.
which I feel like they've never done that for any other
Yes.
stock. Maybe it's happened, but it's been a while. Um, so I feel like the easy money's been made. So I would tend to agree that like I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of just tra trade in a range from here, or just kind of lounge around uh where the where the market is right now,
Yeah, I think the Fed.
absent a recession.
Yeah. Absolute recession. Well, the Fed is going to, be doing their thing, and it's very unlikely they're going to raise or lower. So it's going to be all about what they say after. And then we'll be back to the CPI again. So we've got to cut those events are a couple of weeks out. So I think that's where I'm saying, I think maybe that 2 weeks is going to be a little blah, maybe. You never know. As soon as I say that, of course, we'll have a 500 Dow day or something. But that's kind of how it feels to me. Like there's just
Mm,
nothing right now that's impactful, that's likely. And, obviously there could be anything, a flare up. Yesterday, I saw somebody saying that Israel and Lebanon are really, it's getting a little hotter.
mm.
There might be something going on there. So that could obviously create some action. But in general, right now, it looks to me like could be soft for the next couple of weeks. And Tesla, I actually think the opposite. I think Tesla could move higher during that period because I think here's my two thoughts on Tesla. I think that all of this action on these bots is going to get into the blood of the folks on the street, the ones that are definitely the ones who are willing to look at the next big thing.
Hmm.
They're going to look at what's happened with Figure AI and all those players. They're going to look at Toyota being in the game. They're going to look at all this stuff happening right now, and they're going to be like, okay, there's only really, I mean, Toyota. Yeah, you could buy Toyota to be in the game, but basically, you've got Tesla as the lead. That would be the way to be in the game. And the second thing would be the Cybertruck. As more and more entertainers get into Cybertrucks, I guess Justin Bieber got his today. As
Yeah.
as we get more and more entertainers in these trucks and we get more and more actual mainstream media coverage, I think that could also be something that the more conservative types on the street will start to go, maybe we need to be in this stock.
Yeah, and in those pictures with the Cybertruck, it seems like the real celebrity is the Cybertruck.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Yeah. So I think those two things could actually cause us to be kind of on an upward path here. Quite a few of the, analysts are putting a price tag of the 300 to 350 range by the end of
Mhm.
the year. So, I mean, that you have to get started sometime if you're ever going to
Yeah.
get there.
I will urge people to check us out on YouTube, Rebellionaire,
Absolutely.
and also me on X. I'm Brad S. Ferguson on X, and I'm going to be sharing some unique content next week. Gonna see how V12 does. So I'm headed to California, and we'll see how far I can get with V12.
All right. So you are going to do the trip.
Yeah, gonna do a big trip. And I'm real curious to see how it does. It seems like they fixed a lot of things with their new self-driving software version 12.2.1. And yeah, I'm real curious and wanna take it to my neck of the woods, see how it does here in Carmel, Indiana, and the roundabout capital of the world, and how it does in various places all across the country.
Interesting. Okay. Are you going to have any kind of KPI? Are you going to have like number of interruptions per hour or per mile? Or I mean, are you going to have any kind of any kind of things that you're going to keep track of?
I I want a little advice on that, so you can DM me
Okay.
on X. Um, but I think I'll post about that and ask people what should measure. But the main point is not really like how well it does on the highway, because it's really good on the highway and
Right.
it's using the old version of the software, which is very reliable. The main thing is we want to test it out in the cities. Um, it seems to be like very safe. There was someone who posted a video yesterday where they were in an area where it was in the country, and the road had all these little hillocks, so it's just like going up and down, and the car would slow down as it would crest a
Oh yeah, I
hill,
saw that.
and
Yes.
they complained about it. And I think their complaint is correct. So the speed limit was 50, and there weren't any signs that said like about like a big turn.
Yeah.
So you should know generally, like coming over the hill, that you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But the Tesla slowed down to 38 miles an hour, and this person had someone behind them.
Oh yeah.
So that they were a little self-conscious about that, but like the Tesla was doing the safe thing.
Yeah.
Um, so like I think that's good. Obviously they could enhance it a little bit where they train it. So like if there's a sign on the hill,
Yeah.
warning about a curve, then it would slow down. Or maybe it would have a little more memory. So if it got a little peak over that hill, it would know like there's not like some truck parked across the road or something like that. Um, I thought it was a little um, interesting point of the safety versus the convenience.
Well, actually, what it made me think about was that we are absolutely have so much faith. Drivers in America in the world have so much faith in other drivers, but even in those situations, going around tight turns on mountain roads,
Mhm.
going over any kind of a hill, when you go over the top of that crest, there could be a child, there could be, I mean, there could be anything in the road.
Yeah,
You don't know what's going to be there. And if you're going 65 miles an hour, and by the time you get over the top of that hill or you get around that corner, going
that's extremely unsafe.
extremely unsafe, but we do it all day, all day. We don't even think about it. We're not even worried about it. We're not even like,
Mhm.
maybe there'll be something. So it's, I guess the odds are fairly low. So we don't spend any time. Let's put it this way. I guess our experience is that we haven't had that problem. I suppose if it ever once happened to us, we'd be pretty careful for a while on those
Yeah.
kinds of things. But yeah, very
I
interesting.
I like that it was a little more cautious, because I'll do that. Typically, I won't drive off a highway with cruise control on. So I'll be letting off the accelerator at different points, and I kind of do that based off of like my comfort on the road and that kind of thing. So I don't think it trained off of me though, so don't blame
Right,
me.
right, right. Probably not. Well, that's extremely exciting about your trip across country, and it starts when?
uh, I'll just start posting when it
Okay.
starts. So.
All right. All right. We'll look forward to that. Okay. And
Yep.
then I have mentioned a couple of times my John Gibbs video that was out earlier today. It was, believe me, it was one of the best videos I've done with John ever. So I'm going to want to put a card right here to let everybody know to go and check out that video.
Ooh.
So, okay, then, rebellionaire.com. That's where they need to go. You don't care if they remember your name as long as they remember rebellionaire.com, right?
Yeah, I had fun tonight.
Okay, good. All right, Bradford. Great talking to you. And for all of you out there, been great talking to you as well.